Action 1, Inspiring Action.
Look up because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action 1 Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. All that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. So STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me, and I feel like Action 1 Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together we hope to encourage the knowledge and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Look up because you never know what you will see.
Oh, okay. My wonderful sound effects. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This is SG2 on Space, the one only weekly space show here in Houston, Texas, broadcasting everywhere around the world on Action 1 Media's website, which is at www.weara1.com. Of course, YouTube, you can search for SG2 on Space. And also, please follow me, facebook.com/The Shen Show, SHEN. All right, easy enough. Okay, so today, without further ado, instead of something, just me going over the news or interviewing somebody or something like that, I figure we'd do something a little different, which is talking about creative space, okay? Some of you may know that I actually write poetry as something else I do, among a number of other hobbies or interests, okay? I put them as interests, because who knows? Hobbies means I'm not taking it seriously. But anyways, point is, I figure I will go into that and talk about why exactly poetry or literature in general is very relevant to, space flight and what's out there and beyond. It's not just science, engineering, or technology. It's the literary arts as well. And I could go into music and painting, but since that's not my domains of expertise, I will refrain from doing that, at least on this episode. Maybe I interview somebody else. So, but before we go into that, let me give a brief summary. Well, hit a few highlights, let's just say, of what is it called? Of some space news, right? So the idea here is talk about a few things that's going on this week or last few days. We go to break, come back, and talk about space poetry, all right, and other literature. Okay, so SpaceX recently had a successful cargo run, SpaceX 18, right? So that's all good. I mean, these are fairly regular, they're pretty regularly scheduled launches these days, but it's still good that these things are, so it's good that things are there's no mishap, right? So any case, it's not just America. This I thought was cool. Remember India, I said was trying to get stuff to the moon? Well, guess what? They launched it, the Chandrayaan 2. Chandrayaan in Hindi means mooncraft, literally. So Chandrayaan 2, its purpose is to land on the moon, so it's going to have a lander as well as a rover. And if India successfully does this, does a soft landing, they're going to be the fourth country in the world to have successfully done so after U.S., Soviet Union, Russia, I should say, China, which was just done, if you remember, earlier this year, and then now India. So they launched on July 22nd, 2019, and it's going to take them, let's see, 2 more months, more than 2 months. No, not quite. It's going to take them until September 7th, 2019 to land on the moon. You might be thinking, wow, that's like a month and a half. Why is it taking so long? Well, it's because they have a little smaller rocket, right? So it is basically doing gravity assist, looping around the Earth a bunch of times, okay? So it was launched into space on a GSLV Mk3 rocket. Oh, by the way, it's landing near the South Pole because a lot of people have interest there. South Pole has resources, supposedly, and it has water, right? So and geologically, it's one of the most ancient spots in our solar system. All right. So and there's definitely frozen water there. So that's good. Just a brief note. So what it's going to do is it's looping around permanently, then not permanently, for a while. Then it's inserting into a lunar orbit. And then it's going to keep looping smaller and smaller orbits around the moon. And when it gets close enough, the lander's going to separate, right? So now the autonomous soft landing is a critical point. Remember that the Israeli one had some serious issues, right? It ended up crashing on the moon, unfortunately. So this by the way, the orbiter, by the way, is called Vikram, Vikram. Okay. So the rover is called Pragyan. I don't know Hindi, so I'm not quite sure what these mean. So anyways, actually I shouldn't call it the orbiter, the lander. I'm sorry. So the rover its mission will only last 1 lunar day, which isn't that much, but the lander it would last a little while longer. So this will study the topography and seismography of the moon. Seismography means like earthquakes, right? Topography means like geology and geography. So mineral identification, understand lunar water, okay? So this is going to be kind of cool. So we shall see. Before I continue, I gotta say, India is really ramping up on a lot of interesting activities. If you take a look at their startup companies in the space world, you're gonna discover more and more, pretty much every year. So this will, obviously going to the moon is a pretty big deal. That one is funded by Israel, the Indian. Basically the Indian equivalent of NASA, right? However, remember that they're teaming up, India, one of their companies, it has is basically also going to the moon privately, right? So remember that Google Lunar X Prize company, which unfortunately nobody won the Google Lunar X Prize, but then NASA said, hey, you know what? Why not go to the moon, right? So this any case, so India has these other companies, like Team Indus is teaming up with Orbit Beyond. That's what I was trying to get at. Orbit Beyond is one of the companies that won NASA's commercial lunar payload services, right? Like about a month ago. So this is cool. So there may be, Team Indus is teaming up with this other company. So it's not like purely Indian, but still it's kind of interesting. So that's based in Bangalore, India, which is a hot spot for startups there. Another one I have to mention is a company that a friend of mine is doing. It's called Astrome Technologies, and their website is astrome.io. And in fact, they're raising a lot of money, so somewhere between 10 million euros to 600 million euros. And what are they doing? They're jumping into the small satellite world to provide global internet globally, anywhere in the world. Apparently, there's still over 3 billion people who don't have internet, and you can tack on 1 billion more who has spotty internet. In other words, really slow. There's a huge difference in terms of not just internet availability, but also your speed. So this company, Astrom, ASTRME, developed a special kind of antenna that's very high frequency and can deliver a lot more data than the typical typical satellite, like what SpaceX or OneWeb is doing. So if you go to the website, you can learn all about the way their project and see if you want to invest in them. Why not? They're open. Their public sale is open for the next 60 days, and they're doing what's known as a ICO, which I had no idea what that meant, but apparently it's initial coin offering, which is a cryptocurrency equivalent of an IPO, which is IPO's initial public offering, right? So that's kind of cool. So take a look, see if you want to help them out or invest in them or whatever. All right, so astrom.io. Okay, lastly, I mentioned this before we go to break, China's iSpace. All right, so not just India startup, but Chinese startups are also gearing up. So Chinese iSpace is the first private launch vehicle, in other words, rocket company from China that successfully made a launch. Remember, and they did this on July 25th, okay? So literally, if you're listening to this live, that would be today, okay? So they're the first Chinese private space company to achieve orbit following failures by two of their competitors, Landspace in last October and OneSpace in March 27th, 2019. Okay, and those failed, right? Okay, so this rocket is called a Hyperbola-1, and it's 3 solid stages with a liquid propellant 4 stage. Has a length of 20.8 meters, multiplied by the 3, so what? That's like 63, maybe 70 feet, and a mass of takeoff around 31 metric tons. So it's a fairly small rocket, but this is cool, right? So rocket was delivered to Zhouquan in the Gobi Desert on July 6th. This company, iSpace, has about 120 people part of the company. So, and it has raised quite a lot of money, over $100 million in Series A funding from a number of well-known companies, and it has secured additional A++ series round funding. So you can see these startups are pretty serious, right? So who knows where they're going to go next. These guys, the Chinese iSpace, they're targeting the small satellite industry, which that's kind of funny that possibly they can work with, other startups like the Indian company I just mentioned. Any case, I could go into more detail, but we got to take a break. When we come back, let's jump into the core of our program, which is talking about the creative space aspect of space.
Some of the other things you got going on.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of like celebrity. Y'all real fans to me.
It's just a shades, man.
So I think like 2000.
Put your money where your community is. Get in the action. Action 1. Independent thinkers working together. Inspiring action in media. Get in the action. Inspire today. Join us by being a sponsor at weareA1.com.
Growing up as a black kid in New Jersey, all I ever wanted to do was be a pro athlete. All of my role models were black athletes. And every time I would stare out the window and look at the sky and wonder what I'd be in the future, it always had to do with me catching some crazy football and scoring a touchdown. When it came to the point that I was told that I would not be able to play on an organized sports team for the rest of my life, it was something that I really didn't even know how to stomach in the moment. And I remember walking out of my cardiologist's office and just sitting in the hallway and breaking down for a few minutes just because it was something that I just couldn't plan for and couldn't account for. And I realized that in that moment, my entire life was going to be changed. And all of those dreams and hopes and aspirations that I had were going to go out of the window.
Action 1. Inspiring action.
Look up, because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action 1 Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to...
All right, and we are back. You are listening to SG2 on Space, episode number 39. And today, our core thing is talking about the arts, in particular, in the arts and space. So, creative space, in other words. Typically on the show, I am either interviewing someone or talking about the latest happenings in space news, which mostly is science or technology or entrepreneurship. So today is a little different. We're going to go into the liberal arts side. I don't know what. Anyways, that's what some people call it. So when we talk about the arts, it's not just... It spans whole things, right? It could be film, it could be art, it could be music, it could be literature. So why is that important? Well, I think just like anything else, and especially things that makes us, wonder, have a sense of great wonder, it is, you can't just use one part of your brain, right? That's how I always feel. Especially, like for instance, why are we so fascinated by, say, the pillars of creation in the Ego Nebula that say the Hubble Space Telescope took? Or really any of those images. I mean, they are reality, but at the same time, they are art, right? So you can study all the gas and the spectrometry, whatever, from the stars and be like, oh, they have these elements. This is cool. These are how the stars form. Oh, this is a variable star. This is a galaxy. Okay, cool. The science is interesting, but just to see the beauty of it, there's something to that as well, right? And when you see the beauty of that, I mean, an actual process photograph, like from a Hubble image, that is art already there. Somebody could paint something that is art that's expressing your, it's there's something which really hits you pretty hard. Okay, so, and it's not, you don't have to be a particularly artistic person to be able to appreciate that, right? I mean, a lot of people, when they see images of space, especially real images, or or listen to certain kinds of music that seems to have that space theme, there's something which really strikes home, and I think it's universal. Why exactly do people feel that way? I think it depends on the person, but my personal take on it, this is just speaking for me, is that it's just the wonder. Like, the universe is so huge. I don't know. There's something about it. It's just beautiful. So, I mean, I could tell you about a star. I could talk about a planet. I could talk about the Milky Way. I mean, when I see it, there's something about it, right? In fact, personal story here. This is how I actually got interested in space, because when I was a kid, I came to this country, right, really young, but I still didn't know any English, because well, in China you don't learn English, at least not when you're a kid. But anyways, point is, how did I start learning it is because I went to the library. My mom was very supportive of me reading, and so I went to the library and I somehow discovered all these astronomy books. Now, if they were the boring, well, to a kid, a textbook with no pictures, or just actually any book with no pictures would be considered very boring. So thank God they did not have just, the children's section had books with, I was shocked to find like real pictures of like spacecrafts and like planets and moons and all that and stars and so forth. I got really excited. And I was like, so what drew to me, I couldn't even read the words, right? Not at first. But what drew to me were the pictures, which, that's like I said, there's something to it. So earlier this week, I heard the Apollo 11 astronaut talk, essentially about his experience, Mike Collin, about his experience traveling around the moon, right? So he was a guy who was on Apollo 11, and that was when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, right? Those two landed on the moon. He stayed on the orbiter, because how Apollo worked was that the lander separated, right? But you still had a guy that had to orbit the moon. All right, so two people landed on the moon, and one person kept orbiting the moon. All right, so, and he described, and this was an interview at NASA, right, on live NASA TV. I was there in the audience, and he was asked to describe how he felt, like what he saw, and I think he tried his best, but it's very hard to capture in words what you felt. So one thing he said was seeing the sun behind the moon and lighting it up as if the moon had a halo around it, and that was like a sight he would never forget, like traveling there, and the moon was huge. So, but what he also said was really interesting to me, and I believe other astronauts have said it too, which is that, at least the ones who went to the moon, is that the Earth, like is just a really small, pale, like blue dot, mostly blue with some rusty things that were the continents. And he said he just realized at that moment that our whole planet is extremely fragile. And he kept using that word, fragile, like a marble, like a glass. It could break any moment. And I think that's poetically, I don't think he's a poet, but I think that's a pretty apt description. You use that word, right? So you have that, you see that picture, and then you have these words which evoke your feelings, right? What he saw evoked that kind of feeling in him. And I think that's what the arts try to capture, that science and engineering, if you just purely focus on that, doesn't quite capture. It doesn't capture that inherent feeling that you have. So there is obviously science. I mean, Apollo, okay, sure, there's a political move there as well. But, space missions are not done for the arts, at least not so far, right? But I think naturally when you go do something like that, you experience it, and you also are able to create it for people who are inclined. All right. So yeah, and I think that's for astronauts, of course, they are able to fully experience it. For us on Earth, I feel like, like for me, for instance, seeing those photos. And, of course, I went to observatories and telescopes as well, and to be able to see what's out there so clearly, I mean, that's inspiring right there. That when I look at when I look through a telescope, say, and I can see, like, say, Saturn, right? Saturn is actually quite beautiful, even if you have a small telescope. If you look at Saturn on a clear day, you could see its rings extremely clearly. And it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, I could take a picture of that. That'd be art right there. In fact, me looking at it, it's like looking at a piece of art. So it's I don't know. It's wondrous. So anyways, to me, it's quite beautiful. Hence, how I express it. I can't really draw very well or sing. All right, don't listen to me sing. That would be terrible. Yes, really bad. And I'm not sure how to play music. Maybe one day I'll learn. But I do enjoy writing. So in fact, I just put this out there. I am holding the second book I'm publishing. It's called Requiem: The Space Between Words. All right, and that'll be out on August 16th, and that is when I'm holding a book opening event from 6 to 8 p.m. If you live in Houston, and you're able to make it, that'd be on August 16th. That's a Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. local time, Houston time, or U.S. Central time. And it'd be at this place called Kaboom Books, which is in the Heights here. But in any case, so there, you get some drinks. I provide some, and you can hear me read poetry, and I open it up for other people to go up, if you so wish. So, there's definitely a space theme there. Now, in that particular book, I make a note that I'm not just talking about outer space, I'm also talking about inner space. So to me, it's connected. When you see something that's out there, it instantly, to me at least, affects what's inside of me here. All right, wherever here is. Where's my heart? Okay, wherever that is. All right, not necessarily the physical heart. You get my point. All right, so there's that profound connection. Okay, so it doesn't have to be all scientific. I mean, it could be like just how you feel, right? So, let me just read out a few for the heck of it. So not, there's some other ones in the book, but whatever. So this one is called Mars. Might as well. So we're going to read this one called Okay, apparently, this poem is not very long, but we still need to take a short break. So, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, you're going to hear about Mars, Venus, Europa, Sun, okay, all these good stuff, all right? So, let's do it. Let's take a short break.
Put the headphones on, close your eyes, and let the music take you where. That's how shocking this is just you listen to sex I usually see. No, I like the way they were all magnified, the way we are songs, and influence here, a thread there, a remix of this and that. Here, Mary Thomas uses Ren, a Japanese word, as the source of this song, called Ren. Music, chill music, all down. You can't live in darkness.
All right, we are back. You're listening to SG2 on Space, episode number 39, here in lovely Action One Media Group studio. So today our theme is creative space, basically the arts. In particular, I want to emphasize poetry because that is where I express the creative side from the arts perspective, in relation to space. So I was going to say, let's read a few. So why not? Let's get started. Mars. And I'm reading a few poems I wrote. Just put you out there. I'm going to read some of these. If you hear this now, you're going to hear it again on August 16th 2019 from 6 to 8 p.m. at Kaboom Books, because there's an event called Space Poetry and Wine that I'm hosting. So second book is going to come out. All right, so please come. And if you wish to purchase a book, bring some cash. All right, so with that promo aside, which no doubt I will say again later. So Mars. The sun ducks behind horizon's curtain. The residents of the night sky slowly arise. You, red dot of the night, rightfully stands. Before, we thought you divine, untouchable in high realm of gods. Now, we believe you cold and dead, barely reachable in vacuum of space. Soon, we shall reveal your true self, your red rocky soil firmly under our feet. Yay. Okay. So, my poems tend to be pretty short, all right? Okay, here's another one. Transit of Venus. So I saw Venus, this was a number of years back when Venus crossed in front of the sun, and you see this little black dot going across. It was so neat. All right. Transit of Venus, orb of darkness over spherical light, silent serenity in its flight, morning star, evening star, up above it flies. Its orbit transgresses to we of watchful eyes. So, okay. Another one about Venus I wrote recently called Venus and Clocks. So I was thinking, you know, like there was a Venus has extremely high pressure. And by the way, some of these are related to science, right? Okay, so Venus has really high pressure, right? It's like 90 times the pressure of Earth. So in other words, if you go there, you're going to be flattened like a pancake, all right, very quickly. And it's like 900 degrees Fahrenheit, if not more. So it's greenhouse gas, global warming, greenhouse gas, you know, ran amok, okay? So any instrument that we have actually arrived on Venus, which has been very few, have barely lasted a few minutes before it got crushed and melted, all right? That's what happens, all right? So there was a call, some kind of proposal by this team a little while back on, can we develop a mechanical clock that can somehow survive the intense pressure and temperature on Venus? And I was thinking, that's funny. This reminds me of Salvador Dali's, like, the persistence of memory with the melting clocks, right? So I wrote this one. It's called Venus and Clocks. Melting clocks from La Persistencia de Memoria, Salvador Dali silently paints. He looks at his art, finished, and nods. A scientist looks at him for a moment. Silently, he ponders. The art is so surreal and yet so real. Silently, he wonders. The clocks on Venus in the lander had just melted. It flows onto the hard ground, leaving only La Persistencia de Memoria. Okay. So. All right. Another one of my favorite worlds is Europa. That comes from Greek mythology, but in terms of planets, it's not a planet. It's one of the 4 Galilean moons, and supposedly one of the most likely places in our solar system to harbor life. Why? Because it has a underwater ocean. It's highly suspected to have an underwater ocean. And wherever there's ocean, wherever there's water, and heat, there's a potential for life. So, Europa. Frozen plumes above this icy land. Creaking ice, such musical thunder. Jupiter's glow looms on your face, reflected on opaque white space. Today, we see your outer face of icy blanched white serenity. Tomorrow, we peer into your heart of dark ocean swimming life. So, yes, outside, I forgot to mention, it's icy on the outside. So, in order to get into the ocean, you will have to drill below the ice. Hence, that's what I say. Okay. Closer in to Earth, I would say, sometimes I've seen shooting stars, right? So I wrote one a little while ago. Very short. It's called Shooting Star. A straight path burns the atmosphere. A shooting star illuminates a dark sky. A moment here, a moment gone. A journey akin life's joys and scars. Now it shines, then flows and goes. Okay. So, wrote a few things about the sun. That seems to be a favorite topic of many writers. So here's one called fusion, where I throw some physics in. All right, fusion. Hydrogen atoms collide and are no more, conjoining in fusion into helium-4. These PP chain reactions with nuclear propensity. Thus are born weightless packets of energy, photons, we call them. Created, destroyed, and created once more, 1,000 times within our solar core, until they reach the photosphere, and with 499 tick-tocks of my watch, they fly across space onto Earth. So how wondrous it is to know this morning gift that we all receive, bright light from silent explosions of a floating reactor in empty space, sitting 100 million miles away. We take the sun for granted, but really, it is a floating nuclear reactor right there all the time, providing us, right? So, speaking of the sun, there was another one I wrote from our, if you're here on Earth, right? So, it's called Sunlight. Many a poet has gazed at the moon, threw fine verses at its misty disk aglow, drank fine wine beneath her quiet gaze, and composed songs and words of lovers' passionate whispers and kisses intertwined, dreamers' nostalgia of past days far gone. Yet I look forward to the ever-rising sun to feel its blazing glory high upon the sky, delivering light and warmth in abundance, each ray direct, pure, and intense, so much so that I cannot gaze directly, for its immortal light is immeasurably powerful. But I do not mind that my eyes cannot linger, for these machines are there to worship with rapturous gaze. These modern sun temples on top of each home are more capable than any Egyptian priest could ever behold, for these thin sheets absorb Ra's light and give our eyes the bright light to see reality in our homes after our dreamy forays of the night, lit dimly by a pale moon. So, what does this mean? Take a moment, soak in the sun, and just for people who don't know, don't look at the sun ever directly. This poem is talking about solar panels, by the way, or solar collectors. All right, solar water heaters and stuff. Just a note. That's why these machines are put in there. So, sometimes I want to feel, liberated, right? I don't know how other people feel. But, we're kind of stuck on this earth. That's how I feel sometimes. And it's good to remember that we're all stardust. That's right. Every single of your body used to be, at least your physical body, if you believe in a soul, that may be different. But your physical body, it belonged to a star. Okay, so we're all made of stardust. All right, you guys may have heard of that. All right, so these elements cannot naturally appear except through a supernova. All right, any element that's higher than element number for iron, I think that's 26, cannot be created by any other means that we know of except in a sun, in a star. All right, so. And we definitely have elements that's above iron in element number. So we all are stardust. Okay. This poem is called Return to Sky. Let me lie here on this faded, muddy grass and gaze at the radiant stars above. Let me forget this pain unwinding inside and feel the straight path of joy beyond. I don't want to feel this cold hard earth and be tied to the gravity of emotions. Let me feel utter indescribable unity and return to when I wasn't mortal. Let me remember I was but dust, part of a once radiant blue star. The sky is reaching to grab me, to take me back home again. One day, there'll be a leap from Earth into space. So, running a bit short on time, possibly. So, I kind of figured there's something fundamental that people are missing. Not just knowing that we're stardust, but also just overall like what we're made of, right? So this poem I wrote called Beyond Reality, I wrote that a few years ago, and it talks about that. Sometimes I fear that people do not see that beyond this physical world we call reality lies colorful dimensions of intense activity, dancing quarks, spinning matter, chaotic energy. Our senses falter confined to our locality. Far beyond understanding lies true reality. These worlds beyond our physical mortality, no general relativity, no Euclidean geometry. Our meaning, resonating questions through time eternal. Sciences from physics to biology answer only the external. For glimpses of truth lies within our spirits internal, and the journey to know lies past our life-death terminal. That's how I feel. All right. So science cannot capture everything. That's my view. All right. There are certain things you only experience, as I said, past our life-death terminal, wherever that means for you. So with that, we're going to have to take a short break. And when we come back, well, you've been warned. It's probably going to be about weird things. Okay. So let's take a break.
You're tuned into the all-new Action One Network. Turn up your volume.
We can do what we like. So come by. I love it when you come by. I love it when you come by.
But I just took a trip, went and saw the truth. You should get a ride on mamas. I'm the best thing I done do since Hakeem, Elijah, Warren, I'm being honest.
This is everything, this is where the race, this is my medicine, this is you and me, everybody knows it.
He says he loves it when I'm natural. He loves it.
Trying to control the masses, but I'm still skipping the classes, so I don't have to listen to the madness. So much value in who you are. You should know it's okay to take your time.
Action One, doing it for the culture.
Get in the action at weareA1.com.
Man, you still here? Go on and subscribe.
Get into action.
Yo, we back at it again, baby.
What?
Get into action.
3.
Get into action.
Tell me what is the deal, tell me what is the deal.
So I challenge you today to start strong.
I ain't seen you.
Get in the action.
Tell me what is the deal. Cause I'm calling for you.
Get in the action.
Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Say how you really
Action 1, inspiring action.
Look up because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action 1 Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is...
All right, so okay, everybody. So you've been listening. You are still listening to SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, Texas. This is episode number 39 here at the Action One Media Group studio, and today's theme has been on space poetry. So, or rather, the arts, I should say. I just happen to read a bunch of poetry. Okay, the creative space. That's the theme. And considering how I express it is through poetry and writing. This is what I spent, about 20 minutes doing. But earlier we talked about some of the basic space news that happened, such as, so another successful SpaceX launch, India and China gearing up with all their startup endeavors, as well as India going to the moon, successful launch there, and might be the fourth country to soft land on the moon in September. So look for that. And figure that it's that time again. I mean, come on, like really, the only reason I came here, like every time, there's only one reason. It's to tell you about weird stuff, okay? I mean, aliens, parallel universes, lost time. That is the main gist of this show, all right? So that's what I got to talk about, because if I don't, then nobody knows what's happening. So... so last time I talked about the Area 51, go over there and just dive in, right? Figure out where the aliens are. But seriously, I gotta warn you, don't do that. Although I do have to say, if you do, expect the worst. If not the desert, then the U.S. military will stop you. So... But it might be cool just to, drive around there. I mean, they have something called extraterrestrial highway. I mean, say, look at nature or something. I don't know. Just don't try to go in there. All right. So, we got all these scientists and so forth. A lot of them are just like, keep an open mind. We're going to keep looking for aliens out there. My perspective, come on. What are we? There's clearly weird stuff happening on Earth all the time. Pay attention, right? So, speaking of weird stuff, is not just aliens. Aliens is just a tiny part of it, okay? So, before, I've talked about parallel universes, right? And how, there's been sudden times when people suddenly go into a parallel universe, and then they come back, and they're like, oh my gosh, what just happened, right? Am I hallucinating? Okay, well, it turns out there's... besides those extremely significant stories, such as that woman who somehow traveled to our universe and lost a boyfriend and all that, and lost her job because everything shifted, and that was just crazy, and she couldn't go back to her own universe, and then people thought she was insane. Okay, so that's the extreme case, all right? In our universe, in our reality, quote-unquote reality, as my last poem said, there's stuff going on all the time to everyday, quote, otherwise normal person, normal day, and thankfully, Reddit, that's where I look at. Yes, not all stories on Reddit are false or just exaggerated. My take on it. There's a subreddit I follow called Glitch in the Matrix. I love it. And it talks about everything that is weird. Like, people put up stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, my time just disappeared, for instance. Like, what happened in the last half hour? I don't know. Or some weird thing just happened. Okay, so for instance, one of the common themes seem to be sudden shift in, at least in my view, universes. So here's the example. And I'm going to read this out loud. All right. So All right. So this was posted 1 day ago, and the title apparently is called "She's Not My Friend." All right. So, I'm not going to read every sentence, but here's what happened. All right. So there's a woman, and I'm reading this from this person's perspective. Okay, this is not me saying in first person. Okay. So let's see. U/sad hours. I guess that's a screen name. Says. There's a woman who went to my old church. Her name is Cookie. She's known to be annoying and very bossy. My grandma dislikes her a lot. They work in nursery together. I remember over the span about a month after church every Sunday, my grandma would tell me that Cookie isn't so bad once you get to know her, and they were becoming friends. One Sunday, she told me in tears that Cookie had a brain tumor and she only had a few months to live. She was distraught over the fact that her new best friend was dying. I remember my mom saying, "Oh, that's so terrible. I wonder how her kids are taking it." I even remember them asking for prayer for her because of it during the time. Flash forward 2 weeks. I asked how Cookie's doing. My grandma says, annoying and bossy. I was confused. I asked her about the brain tumor, and she acted like I was crazy. The tumor apparently never happened, and Cookie is still alive and well. Any ideas as to what happened? Again, you can read all these comments, but my perspective, your grandma that you talked to, either you shifted to a different universe or she shifted to a different universe. I think it's you, because that would mean Cookie and grandma. Yeah, Cookie and grandma are linked here. So you just shifted to a different universe where that incident never happened, where your grandma still thinks this person is really bossy and annoying. Imagine that, you make it, that's just wild. That's what I think. Okay. Another shifting universe thing, and I'm not going to read this whole thing because it takes too long. Okay, so this guy, and this is a everyday thing, okay? It's not just, oh my gosh, grandma no longer friends with this person. She never had cancer. That actually sounds pretty significant. This one is this guy goes to Starbucks, right? He works at Starbucks, and then his mom says, "Hey, I saw your friend JP there, And he's like, "What are you talking about? He doesn't have that work shift today." And his mom said, "Look, I came in 3:15, and your friend, your coworker, he served me coffee." And then this guy's like, "I don't know what she's saying. Why would my mom lie to me about such a small thing? This makes no sense. She doesn't lie like that." My perspective, either he has a twin, or his mom shifted universes to a different one where JP was working that day. Always possible, right? By the way, you can use the shifting universes thing for like bad memory as well. Just a note. Okay. Some people may say that, but there are things which are really strange which you can't explain just because you can say you have a bad memory. It's not like that. Okay, so there's also, guys, watch out for this, right? So people listen to songs, but there are cases where people hear a song that they swear they have listened to years before, but their friend says it just came out. So for instance, I'll quickly read this one. This came out 5 hours ago. Oh my gosh. So title. All right. In 2016, my friend had a birthday party and she played the song "Look at Me" by XXX Tentacion. Okay, I do not know that song. It had just releasing on platforms other than SoundCloud, but I didn't know that at the time. I distinctly remember me saying, "Oh wow, this song is really old." And my friends telling me that it had just been released a few days ago. I kept telling her that I used to listen to it all the time a few years ago, but she insisted that the song came out a few days prior. I was weirded out and confused because I knew every lyric and remember me listening to it in my room and dancing. The memories were around 2012 or 2013. A couple weeks later, I started to do some research to see if she was just messing with me and if it was really an old song. I found out that it released on SoundCloud in 2015, released on platforms in 2016, and then remastered in 2017. This still doesn't explain why I distinctively remember dancing to the song in my room and knowing all the lyrics in 2012 or 2013. I'm honestly still confused years later. Any explanations would be really helpful. Okay, and apparently if you look at the comments, there's other people that actually has the same thing. Where essentially they heard a song and they're like, hey, I remember dancing or listening to this song like several years ago. And then they do a Google search and apparently it was a new song. Once again, it's really easy to explain if you just understand that you just traveled to a different universe. Okay, come on. This artist, they always had that thing in their mind, but they just didn't write it in this universe in this time. They had to wait a few years. Okay, that's all that happened. Come on. So, all right. Running out of time here, but I like to say besides this, there's also the other main thing that happens that you guys need to pay attention to. Okay, so what did I say? Aliens, yes, look up. 2, these weird things that happen. People's memories are wrong and stuff. That means you switched universes or somebody else did. 3, disappearing things, okay? So this lady, for instance, 7 hours ago, she put my earrings disappeared in front of my eyes. So here's what happened. So a few months ago, she was putting on a pair of earrings, and then when she was picking up the second earring, she dropped it, right? And then obviously she wants to go and pick it up, but she literally saw the earring disappear and sink underneath the floor. So the floor was tile, so it couldn't possibly have gone through, right? So she just stood there for a full minute staring at it. Then she began searching all around, asked her dad for help, and never found the earring. All right. So what does this mean? I don't know. This means couldn't be. How do you explain that? Miniature black hole, maybe? Weird. Okay, so either weird physics. I don't know if the parallel universe thing works for this one. That just sounds a little strange. Okay, so weird black hole thing. I'd say that. Or 2, we're living in computer simulation, and somehow it glitched right there. That's my explanation. In fact, the computer simulation thing could explain all of this, what I just said, actually. So that's what I'm going. Or like a weird spiritual ghost entity that loves to play tricks on you. All right, and just steals your stuff. Okay. So, yeah. So that you should go on there and take a look. I mean, there's like a gazillion stories. All right, some of them very weird. So, with that, I just want to say we are all made of stardust. And if you want to remember, I'm going to leave you one stanza from a poem I wrote a while back called Gardens of New Light. From the void came a bane and light. Dust congealed into stars and planets alike. A new earth bloomed in glorious delight. The supreme with one bang let life take flight. So, what is our purpose in life? I feel like it's to continue, expand, and do this. We got to have interstellar flight, and we can transform worlds that were once barren and dry into new gardens of worthy sight. Basically summarize that poem, but that's what I think. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm going to have to end this, but thank you for listening to SG2 on Space. As always, SG2 on Space, as always, at Action One Media Studio. Creative space was the theme today. So, in any case, once again, I ask you to follow me on www.facebook.com/The Shen Show. And if you look at it, there's the event, Space Poetry and Wine. So feel free to respond to that event. Hopefully you can come on August 16th. And do not ever forget, even if you don't come, look up, because you never know what you will see. And what you see would either be beautiful stars and planets or aliens looking back at you. Okay. Either way. Don't forget to look up, guys.
Peace, it's brother Atum Ra, and you tuned in to Action One Network.